Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Klein coming to you with part 7 of Dear Mr. Henshaw by Beverly Cleary. Again, the illustrator is Paul O. Zielinski and it is published by Scholastic Incorporated. So today we're starting on Friday, February 2nd. I'm going to try and record it again so that you can see the words as I read them aloud. Friday, February 2nd. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, I am writing this because I'm trapped in my room with a couple of babies sleeping in baskets on my bed. Mom has some of her women friends over. They sit around drinking coffee or herb tea and talking about their problems, which are mostly men, money, kids, and landlords. Some of them piece quilts while they talk. They hope to sell them for extra money. It is better to stay in here with the babies than go out and say, hello, sure, I like school fine, yes, I guess I have grown, and all that. Mom is right about Dad in his truck. I remember how exciting it was to ride with him and listen to calls on his Citizens Band radio. Dad pointed out how hawks sit on telephone wires waiting for little animals to get run over so they won't have to bother to hunt. Dad says civilization is ruining hawks. He was hauling a gondola full of tomatoes that day, and he said that some tomatoes are grown specially so they are strong, they won't squash when loaded. So they are so strong they won't squash when loaded into a gondola. They may not taste like much, but they don't squash. That day we had to stop at a weigh scale. Dad had used up enough diesel oil, so his load was just under the legal weight, and the highway patrol didn't make him pay a fine for carrying too heavy a load. Then we had lunch at the truck stop. Everybody seemed to know Dad. The waitresses all said, well, look who just rolled in, our old pal, Wild Bill, and things like that. Wild Bill from Bakersfield is the name Dad uses on his CB radio. When Dad said, meet my kid, I stood up as tall as I could so they would think I was going to grow up as big as Dad. The waitresses all laughed a lot around Dad. For lunch, we had chicken fried steak, mashed potatoes with lots of gravy, peas out of a can, and apple pie with ice cream. Our waitress gave me extra ice cream to help me grow big like Dad. Most truckers ate real fast and left, but Dad kidded around a while and played the video games. Dad always runs up a high score no matter which machine he plays. Mom's friends are collecting their babies, so I guess I can go to bed now. Sunday, February 4th. Dear Mr. Pretend Henshaw, I hate my father. Mom is usually home on Sunday, but this week there was a big golf tournament, which means rich people have parties, so she had to go squirt deviled crab meat into about 1 million little cream puff shells. Mom never worries about meeting the rent when there is a big golf tournament. I was all alone in the house. It was raining, and I didn't have anything to read. I was supposed to scrub off some of the mildew on the bathroom walls with some smelly stuff, but I didn't because I was mad at Mom for divorcing Dad. I feel that way sometimes, which makes me feel awful because I know how hard she has to work and try to go to school too. I kept looking at the telephone until I couldn't stand it any longer. I picked up the receiver and dialed Dad's number over in Bakersfield. I even remembered to dial 1 first because it was long distance. All I wanted was to hear the phone ringing in Dad's trailer, which wouldn't cost Mom anything because nobody would answer. Except Dad answered. I almost hung up. He wasn't off in some other state. He was in his trailer, and he hadn't phoned me. You promised to phone me this week, and you didn't, I said. I felt I had to talk to him. Take it easy, kid, he said. I just didn't get around to it. I was going to call this evening. The week isn't over yet. I thought about this. Something on your mind, he asked. I didn't know what to say, so I said, my lunch. Somebody steals the good stuff out of my lunch. Find him and punch him in the nose, said Dad. I could tell he didn't think my lunch was important. I hoped you would call, I said. I waited and waited. Then I was sorry I said it. I have some pride left. There was heavy snow in the mountains, he said. I had to chain up on Highway 80 and lost time. From my map book, I know Highway 80 crosses the Sierra. I also know about putting chains on trucks. When the snow is heavy, truckers have to put chains on the drive wheels, all 8 of them. Putting chains on 8 big wheels in the snow is no fun. I felt a little better. How's Bandit? I asked, as long as we were talking. There was a funny silence. For a minute, I thought the line was dead. Then I knew something must have happened to my dog. "How's Bandit?" I asked again, louder in case Dad might have lost some of the hearing in his left ear from all that wind rushing by. "Well, kid," he began. "My name is Lee," I almost yelled. "I'm not just some kid you met on the street." "Keep your shirt on, Lee," he said. When I had to stop along with some other truckers to put on chains, I let Bandit out of the cab. I thought he would get right back in because it was snowing so hard, but after I chained up, he wasn't in the cab. "Did you leave the door open for him?" I asked. Big pause. "I could have sworn I did," he said, which meant he didn't. Then he said, "I whistled and whistled, but Bandit didn't come. I couldn't wait any longer because the highway patrol was talking about closing Highway 80. I couldn't get stranded up there in the mountains when I had a deadline for delivering a load of TV sets to a dealer in Denver. I had to leave. I'm sorry, kid. Lee, but that's the way it is." "You left Bandit to freeze to death?" I was crying from anger. How could he? "Bandit knows how to take care of himself," said Dad. "I'll bet dollars to donuts he jumped into another truck that was leaving." I wiped my nose on my sleeve. "Why would the driver let him?" I asked. "Because he thought Bandit was lost," said Dad, "and he had to get on with his load before the highway was closed, the same as I did. He couldn't leave a dog to freeze." "What about your CB radio?" I asked. "Didn't you send out a call?" "Sure I did, but I didn't get an answer. Mountains cut down on reception," Dad told me. I was about to say I understood, but here comes the bad part. The really bad part. I heard a boy's voice say, "Hey, Bill, Mom wants to know when we're going out to get the pizza." I felt as if my insides were falling out. I hung up. I didn't want to hear any more when Mom had to pay for the phone call. I didn't want to hear any more at all. To be continued. So, here are your questions for this section. So first, on page 67, Lee said, "I hate my father." Do you think Lee has good reasons to hate his dad? Even if he does, do you think it's okay to say he hates his dad? How do you feel about people using the word hate when talking about other people? Use at least 3 complete sentences to answer these questions. So I'm going to go back to page 67 and let the phone hover over that for a moment. Okay, now, question number 2. Beverly Cleary wrote, "I'll bet dollars to donuts he jumped into another truck that was leaving," when Lee's dad was talking about Bandit, their family dog. What does dollars to donuts mean? Think about the message Lee's dad is trying to get Lee to understand. So if you could replace dollars to donuts, what do you think you could put in there that would make sense? Even if you had to replace "I'll bet dollars to donuts," what could you put in there that would make sense? Question number 3. On page 72, Lee is on the phone with his dad, learning about what happened to his dog Bandit. Lee said, "I was about to say I understood, but here comes the bad part, the really bad part." I heard a boy's voice say, "Hey, Bill, Mom wants to know when we're going to get the pizza." Use text evidence to make an inference about why that was the really bad part. Be sure to explain how your evidence supports or proves your inference. So remember, an inference is something that we come up with that makes sense based on evidence that we read and the knowledge that we have in our brains. So put those things together and you have an inference. I'm going to go to page 72 and hover over that spot for a while so that you have that to use in your answer. All right, so only 3 discussion questions this time, but I feel like they are enough for you, especially because the third one is definitely a little bit trickier just because you're going to have to explain your evidence, and the second one has some language in it that will make you think, and the first one I want 3 complete sentences. So I'm challenging you that if you have not written anything yet, to send to either Mrs. Myers or myself, that you would write out answers. And even if you are not sure how to send them to us, that you would show us when we are on our Zoom discussion. Remember, if you do have access, like your parents let you get on their emails or they get on them with you, which is great, you can take a picture of your answers and attach that to an email. You can type your answers. Any of those things would work. So I would really love to have more students involved in writing out their answers and showing us that they've put thought behind this. All right, have a good day, everyone, and we'll see you soon.